Halachot of Muktzeh, continuing on two different topics. The first one to discuss today is the halachot of different types of bones and klipot, different types of coverings or shells on Yom Tov and Shabbat. What's the difference? Let's say you have a chicken, you just took off all the meat on Shabbat, and you're left with the bones. I'm allowed to move these chicken bones, meaning they don't become muktzeh, even if I deboned it, if you want to call it, or took off the meat, or I broke these shells open of this type of these nuts on Shabbat. And there's no prohibition because of nolad. This all applies to Shabbat. However, on Yom Tov, אבל ביום טוב החמירו חכמים שלא לטלטל עצמות וקליפות שנתפרקו ביום טוב. However, on Yom Tov, Chachamim were more strict that even, let's say I had a chicken, I ate all the meat and I'm left with the bone, you can't just take the bone and walk around with it freely and throw it to the dogs. Why? Because Chachamim understood that Yom Tov, and it's really amazing because it still exists in our generation, people, they view Yom Tov as a much lower level than they view Shabbat. So for that reason, many elements of Yom Tov, Chachamim are more strict in than in Shabbat. This is one of the examples by Muktzeh when it comes to different types of bones. So for that reason, on Yom Tov, you wouldn't be allowed to move these bones or these klipot. Because its kedusha is lighter, they made more of a safeguard so people won't belittle in the Yom Tov. Now we'll continue to the next topic. We'll end with this. A very commonly asked question on Shabbat: what's the status of prachim, of flowers, on Shabbat? Are they considered muktzeh or not? So Ovadia explains very briefly. Actually, first he'll say that I saw in the name of Rav Moshe Feinstein that he says they are muktzeh, but I haven't seen it in Igrot Moshe. It was another book that quoted in his name without any necessarily source. But it's important to just mention that. However, Ovadia, Yosef, and the Or Letzion both explain. Prachei noi, the flowers for decoration, different types of besamim, different types of nice smelling things that are put into let's say a vase or something, are not considered muktzeh, and one is allowed to move them on Shabbat from place to place. That's on the rule number one. Is Ovadia and the Or Letzion explain that flowers are not considered muktzeh. Now, when it comes to a flower pot, there are different categories and different levels and ramifications, nothing to do with muktzeh, but all to do with the other melacha of planting or of kotzer, of harvesting that or cutting off. So this is it's like 3 or 4 categories. I'll try to summarize it briefly outside. Atzitzi mafar. So let's say you have a flower pot with dirt inside the flower pot, and now it really depends what the pot is made of and whether or not it has holes or not. So let's say the flower pot has holes and it's on the dirt, okay? That's considered that it's absorbing from the dirt. So if I were to come and move this flower pot, I'm eliminating its source of nutrition between the dirt in the flower pot and the ground. And that's a problem of kotzer on Shabbat. Now, there are 4 categories. Now, if it's on the airspace, also the Shulchan Aruch is strict that the airspace is like on the ground. Very good. Now, if this flower pot, if it doesn't have any holes, it's eno nakuv, then it depends what's the pot made of. Again, it's very, very tedious and very specific. We're trying to keep it very, very brief. If the flower pot without holes is made from wood or pottery or cheres or clay, then for the halacha views it that it's still able to absorb from the ground even if there's no holes. But if it's made from metal or or glass, then it can't absorb whatsoever, and you can move it freely and not have to worry about this kotzer. Now, also, if you have a flower pot that has holes, but it's on the table, not on the dirt, or it's on a marble floor, not on the dirt, you can also move it from place to place because it's not absorbing from anything under it. That's a brief overview of the halachot of moving a flower pot. Once we've already established it's not muktzeh, just to be mindful of the other melachot that can pertain on Shabbat. Have a wonderful day.